Rob. How are you?
Doing well, guys. I'm a little upset that Elias Pettersson tried to overshadow the big news yesterday of the new Canucks scoreboard, but
Wow.
what have you.
You know, you work so hard to get a scoop like that, and then you get out scooped by the Star Center.
I think Austin Matthews might have scooped everybody.
Well,
At
not
least
in this
national
town.
not
in this town.
National media, though. My goodness,
Oh,
you
for
compare
sure.
it to
Yeah.
this of
No,
Elias Pettersson.
they left Elias quickly there yesterday and
Yeah.
went scurrying east to cover that contract. So I just want your general opinions first, what you heard from Elias, and we'll move on from there.
Yeah, I think it's mildly concerning. I think the hope for Canucks fans and likely Canucks management as well was to re-sign Elias Pettersson to as long a contract as possible and do it before this season so that there's absolutely no distractions. It's not a talking point going into training camp, and you have certainty with the team's best player and keeping him throughout all of his prime years, right? And now we're left to wonder, why does it, there's no rush, sure, but why does he want to wait? And that's the big question for me. Is this purely a money thing? Does he think that, okay, I'll have a big year and we'll get more certainty with the salary cap, and maybe a few other top players will sign and the market moves up? I think that's a perfectly reasonable thing to think if you're Elias Pettersson. But Austin Matthews didn't wait a year, right? Like, he could have waited, but he signed for them and took the money now. And a lot of players do take the money right away. So I'm left to wonder with Pettersson, and I think based off of past comments he's had about wanting to play on a winning team, and of course, like, why wouldn't he? And he's so clearly driven to win that maybe he's waiting to see what kind of season the Canucks have. Maybe he's waiting to see how these players all come together, and if things go off the rails as badly as they have in the last 3 years, geez, I hope not, right? Like, I hope we see a better product on the ice this season. But what if it does? What does that, then what does Pettersson do? And I would venture to say that how the Canucks perform this season will have an effect on how long Pettersson is willing to sign with the team.
Mm-hmm. What about an Austin Matthews resolution? He did allow that it could be a shorter term. Do you think he was maybe just setting everybody up for, look, it's not going to be the 8-year extension, but he is going to find a way to get a deal done here with the Canucks? Possibility?
Yeah, I mean, we're left to wonder, right? Because, like, he is going to re-sign. He's not an unrestricted free agent, so he's a restricted free agent. But, like, what does short term mean? Does that mean like 1 year walk him to free agency, or does that mean, like you say, like an Austin Matthews kind of middle term kind of
That's
deal?
the double dip contract, right? That allows you to get paid big time twice, right?
Yeah. And I think that would be a perfectly reasonable thing to do as well. But I do think that if he's playing on a team and playing for an organization where he has confidence that they can put a winner on the ice and that they can, he can play for never mind a contender, but play for a playoff team. I think this is probably a little bit easier to convince him to sign long term. Whereas, if it goes the other way, I think I really think right now that it's about winning for him. And, obviously it's always about the money as well with any contract, but geez, I think this is about winning. He's going to get his money no matter where he goes. But do you really want to lock into your best years on a team that, maybe they're a playoff team, right? If you look at the gambling odds right now, like Vegas doesn't think they're a playoff team. So, I think why should he sign long term with the organization? Mm-hmm. So I think it's a perfectly reasonable thing to do, but it is concerning if you're a fan of the Canucks or you're in management.
Yeah, it's the boy who cried wolf fable. I mean, where the Canucks are the boy and Elias is the townsfolk who comes running and finds out, no, there is no wolf.
But the other thing to consider here for him is, think about we think that the Canucks did well this offseason in that they didn't commit a ton of term to a lot of players. He might see the opposite in that he doesn't know who his teammates are going to be in a few years. So we see the the canvas being wide open in a couple of years' time to sort of fit this team into a contending status. But maybe that's less heartening for the star player who wants to know who's going to be bringing him to contention. And right now, outside of those core few players that he's been around for years with, he doesn't know necessarily who the new guys are that are going to bring them to that promised land outside of Philip Roenick, who he doesn't really know a ton.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's a smart guy and someone who follows the league and someone who knows how, the players see how championship teams are built as well, right? Like they're I don't think they're naive to what it takes to build a winner. So I don't think it's necessarily. I mean, I think he's probably looking at this and thinking the same thing. Like, okay, great. Like we're not, I think that a player probably has less of a long-term lens than a fan might. Like they're probably looking in like 5-year chunks rather than like, okay, how's this going to affect the team for the next
every year? So valuable to their career, Rob, right? Like every year so valuable.
As Jeff said yesterday, if you've got 10 years left, you've got 10 chances to win a Stanley Cup, and it won't be this year, right?
You don't just throw them away.
Yeah, and that's very much on brand for the modern player too, Rob, who is slowly, surely, and increasingly taking control of their career and where it meanders after being subject to, let's face it, something that no other profession is subject to, right? A draft. Guess what, kid? You're going to Columbus. What do you mean? I'm one of the best in my profession. I could work the world over in any other industry. No. Our rules, you're playing in Columbus. I get it.
Yeah, I mean, I think a big thing for Pettersson right now is what has already happened, what he's already been through. If the Canucks don't make the playoffs next season, that'll be 6 years now since making his debut and never playing in front of a playoff crowd, right? It's not the Canucks' fault the pandemic happened in 2020, but that just the one playoff appearance in 2020, and it was the weird one, right? So like, how much must he be wanting to play in the playoffs, be wanting to have those pressure-packed situations in front of the big crowd, getting a real taste of the real Stanley Cup playoffs. I would imagine that's burning, pretty hot right now for Pettersson.
Answer me the poll question then, because here's the other thing. Does this change everything with the captaincy? With Elias Pettersson unsigned to start the year, who's the captain now? Hughes, Miller, Pettersson, or no captains, free alternates? What says you, Rob?
I don't think this should change their thinking in it at all. And if, and my thinking has been that if Elias Pettersson wants to be the captain of the Vancouver Canucks, he'll be the captain of the Vancouver Canucks. I don't know if he wants to be captain. That's one unanswered question for me. I don't know if he relishes that side of things. And I think that maybe, just from everything that we've seen so far, I'm leaning towards Quinn Hughes as being the top candidate to be captain for the Canucks. And I think that's probably the right choice, but I wouldn't slight Pettersson over it. If Pettersson wants it, I think it's his.
How about a rotating? How about a rotating C? Are we talking?
Well, that's it. We've
talking about shared A's. How about a rotating C?
That's irregular.
Yeah.
Of course, we have seen that with the Canucks before, with early 90s Trevor Linden, Dan Quinn, and Doug Lidster all shared the C for a year before Linden took over as a regular captain.
Yeah. Rob's right, though. There's the unanswered question of whether he wants it. There's the complication of, can you assign it to him this year? And I'm with you, Rob. Like, maybe it's just better off going Hughes this way, so long as you're not slighting Elias. Or if Elias wants it and you're uncomfortable giving it to him because it's final year, then go with 3 ace this year and play it out another year under your head coach. We've seen that recently too with the Vancouver Canucks.
Yeah, I don't think there's a risk. I mean, look, if you give the C to Pettersson and he leaves in a year or two, then you find another captain. Then you give it to Hughes. and it's already disaster mode that you've lost him anyway. So I don't think that you're now
Fair.
putting Hughes in a tough spot. I think that's already a really bad outcome. I think you wouldn't want to be in a situation where you've slighted him because you're not willing to give him the C before he signs long term. And he's like, what do you mean? I'm already committed here. So I wouldn't risk it in that side. So to me, the captaincy is a totally separate issue.
The good news, Rob, is that we will see who is captain very clearly when it does happen, because it'll all be on that massive new scoreboard they're installing at Rogers Arena, which went from Sam Smith concert skullduggery to out in the open today with a news release that chronicled all the changes inside Rogers Arena. Not only the scoreboard, but new seats for everybody after the summer of 2024.
Finally, we find out what's happening at Rogers Arena. I'm sure Canucks PR will be thrilled to not have to hear from me with questions about the seats and the video board, maybe for a couple of weeks or so. I'm not sure until the next rumor spikes. But yeah, it looks really awesome. Apparently, it's going to be almost 4 times bigger. The scoreboard is going to be than the previous one. So you're going to have these giant video screens to see replays and what have you. There's also a new ring beam being put in, and also some video screens going above each section. So lots of new bells and whistles, I think that we're going to be seeing at the rink this season. So that should improve the fan experience. We've also got confirmation now that the seats will be changed entirely beginning next summer. So they're going to be,
they didn't tell us what color, though, did they? They didn't tell us what color.
Well, yeah, I guess the assumption is because they were doing the one, piecing everything together. They didn't explicitly say it in this release, but piecing together from what we know, that they're having an entire section that's going to be black. I'd say it's safe to assume that we're going to be saying goodbye to the old maroon colored seats this year, and next summer it should be all black going throughout the arena.
Also, this event level club, Rob, where you can sit there and fine dine as the players walk past you to and from their benches during the intermissions and, of course, pregame.
That's right. So this is the new high roller club. I guess they casually called it the Center Ice Club. I would imagine there might be a sponsor name on that before puck drops on the season.
I believe one is coming, Rob. Somebody told me there is one coming. Yes.
Exactly. So, this will have a private entrance for. It sounds like you don't have to interact with the riffraff at all if you don't want to. Here,
so gross to see the fans, right?
You park in your spot underground. You take your private entrance into this club area, and then you get a private entrance into your special area with the extra cushy seats. It sounds like it's going to be very expensive to get your hands on one of these tickets, but it sounds very exclusive, and it'll be interesting to see how that what the experience is like for fans sitting in that.
Yeah. Have you heard what they're going for?
I'd have to look it up. I know Clay Emo was on this beat, right. Shaking down the ushers to find out the information when he was looking at his season tickets. I know I don't want to say a number because I'll be wrong, but it was extraordinarily expensive from what people have heard.
This gets you into every other Rogers Arena event. I'm told you're not allowed to sell them. Like, they're yours. You have to go to all the.
I was wondering about this.
But there's no if you say, "Oh, I don't want this concert or anything," sorry, it's yours. There's 60 of these seats. Somebody told me the Aquilini family will be taking 10 of them behind the bench, behind the Canucks bench. And break out your wallet.
Yeah.
If you want to be in this club.
New seats for the fans coming, and for the players, though, too. New benches and penalty boxes. So that's nice. I hope they have a good cushioned bench and penalty box.
I want to say it's the 3rd oldest arena in the league, and I'll
needed.
Look, the seats, needlessly, and the video board, needless to say, were both absolutely overdue. But for the most part, for an arena that old, it's holding up reasonably well.
Yeah, I would agree. I think we say what we want about what the ownership has done to the team on the ice, but I think they've kept the arena in pretty good shape. My biggest complaint about Rogers Arena is it's just the concourses are just too narrow, and they're exceptionally too narrow. And anything they can do to improve in that area, that it's not an easy thing to do. But I think that's one that's sorely needed. If they can, I don't know if they can expand the footprint at all. But that's my big complaint that's going to be very difficult to change.
Yeah, and of course the leaks and the mice. But we'll hope that was a one-off for last year. Lastly, Rob, the Toronto Raptors come to town here, and dare I use the phrase, it's almost like they're Canada's team. That NBA title a few years ago, I think, has really helped nationalize their brand and get more fans coast to coast. And we saw that again here this week when their presale for an exhibition game against Sacramento came up. Tell us that story.
Yeah, this has been building since before their championship run too, guys. Like, I remember the Raptors visits in, what was it, 2016, 2017, and yep. I wasn't really on board. I was sort of, only had a passing interest in the team, and I couldn't believe the footage that we're seeing coming out of Rogers Arena of how excited people were to be at an NBA preseason game, and it wasn't just basketball fans or people just checking out an event. These were Raptors fans. These were very enthusiastic fans going to the games. I went to the game in 2018, which was the first time Kawhi Leonard played in a Raptors jersey. There was a great atmosphere for an NBA preseason game, and it appears that despite the last couple of years that the Raptors have had, excitement's still there. The pre-sale tickets went on sale yesterday morning. Spoke to some people that were in the queue for it. Some people didn't get in. It looks like the pre-sale completely sold out. There were some people that went online that were talking about how they couldn't get tickets. And they go on sale to the general public Friday morning, 10 a.m. So we'll see how many tickets are even left at that point.
No,
I'm expecting another sellout at Rogers Arena for this.
Yeah, and you're right. They had popularity here early, before the championship, and I think you're absolutely right. We now have this confluence of people who are Vancouver's an event town, this an event, and I'm going, and dyed-in-the-wool Raptors fans, particularly after
they've had I don't know, 10
championship, and they haven't been here in 5 years, right? So it's also been a while.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think it's also generational. This is the NBA skews younger. And I think especially in Vancouver, you talk to young people. I was saying to you guys earlier, like people in the office at Daily Hive, we have a younger office. People are interested in the NBA every single time they come to town. People are asking me how do they get tickets and all the rest. And it's sometimes it's from sports fans, sometimes it's more from casual fans, but people are definitely interested in the NBA, especially young people.
This clip brought to you by LiUNA 1611, BC Laborers Union. Check out 1611.ca.